thoughts on what's the black swan event is? Anyone knows a black swan event? I've allowed you guys to unmute yourself. Anyone? Yes, no? So actually Black Swan event is, Black Swan is a book written on this event, a book written by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, right? Black Swan is actually an event. The probability of happening that event is very low, but if it happens, it causes a disproportionate impact. So basically we are dealing with a black swan event, okay? And to tackle with that black swan event, you would need different kind of tools, technologies, methods, skill sets, and more importantly, a different kind of mindset. Yeah, someone wants to say something? So this is the event, today's scenario we are dealing with, right? And when we talk about accounting and auditing profession, I think it now needs a more uh, breadth needs to cover more basically. Can you guys hear me? Now is it clear? Yeah, great, Saket. Thanks a lot. So we are dealing with a black swan in a situation, right? Now let us look at the ACCA has come up with a report, okay, on different aspects. So they have done a survey in 100 countries, and this report is released today itself. So I thought it's good to share with all of you, because the mindset change would require a lot of things for us as a accounts and finance professionals, right? So 80% of the business leader expect that there will be significant downturn in their revenue and profits in this year, right? Nothing great. Employee productivity is one of the biggest concerns for the organization, okay? Then over 1/3 of the organization are already facing cash flow problems. 1/5 of the organization are deferring their investments or investment decision, okay? This is important. Half of the organization have stopped doing any forecasting because they believe that the information which is required to do the forecast is not available. 1/5 of the organization are already freezing their recruitment, and 70% of them currently only see government intervention as effective. And almost 1/3 of the organization don't have business continuity plan. So these are all, basically very scary numbers for us as professionals in any field, but it makes more challenging for us as a finance professionals if we are an auditor or an auditee both, okay? And one by one I will discuss and try to bring out these points, that why these points are important in our professional career, right? So to start with, we have discussed this ACCA report, which is very relevant in today's sense. We will discuss the impacts on these headings, and as I will cover these headings as we move, okay? Now, the biggest impact, basically, can someone tell me what are the two basic assumptions which we have in our financial statement preparation as per the framework of Ind AS? What are the two basic assumptions? There is a gift for someone who answers this question right. Anyone who will answer this question correctly? Saket, one is going concern. What is the second one? Raghav, going concern is right. Saket says accruals, estimates. Anyone else? Historical accounting, Shamit says. Fair value, Aman says. Divya, I believe there is some problem at your end because I think others are able to hear me properly. So you may check connection at your end. So basically, the right answer is Saket, right? Saket, going concern and accrual concept. Saket, no, but Saket also have not given, yeah, going concern and accrual. So Saket, you are right. Basically, going concern and accrual are the two basic assumptions which are there, and on the basis of which financial statements are prepared. So Saket, please claim your gift from us. Okay. Um, so basically, what I'm trying to derive is that going concern is an absolutely important consideration because all other assumptions, accrual concept, fair value measurement, cost or NRV, etc., are derived on the basis of that going concern is always there. Otherwise, you will have to make your financial statement on liquidity basis. That means you will estimate all your assets and liability at their realizable value if the going concern assumption is vitiated, right? Now, as you see, lot of industries are going through a very rough phase, right? Travel is one, airlines is another, right? So if you are doing audit for this kind of industry, even hotels and restaurants are going through these phases, right? And there are many more industries which are facing these problems. So what I'm trying to say is, if you are an auditee, then also, and if you are an auditor, then also, the first and the foremost check which you will have to do while doing this year's financial statement is whether going concern is still valid, and there has to be a very robust documentation as to why you believe so, that going concern is still valid assumption. It is very important, right? Because there may be, you are auditing a airline company, right? How do you say that it will continue its operations on a going concern basis when they have significant fixed cost to pay to their crews, to pay to the lease of the air flight, right? So there are so many things. How do you insure yourself? Or if you are a hotel, let's say you are Fab Hotels or any other hotel which has a huge commitment in terms of their lease payments, their staff payments. How do you believe that this industry will come to the normal, right? And I'm not exaggerating the facts, but you will ask the same question to Olas and Ubers and Oyos of the world, right? That why do you believe that you are still a going concern? There may be some important considerations which you will have to keep in mind, and I will come to the point that how do you evaluate whether a company is a going concern, because everything is an estimate and no one knows what needs to be done, right? So you some of the indicators which I have not spoken about, like for example, diminishing in the demand of your products, right? We talked about some of the industries, but diminishing of the demand of your products, contractual obligations, we talked about airline industry, right? Potential liquidity and working capital shortfalls, right? Again, airline industry and hotel chains are a good example of that, right? So even access to existing sources of capital, Oyo is an example for that, right? Because Oyo, if you know, they have taken a huge loan as well, along with the funding which has got from SoftBank. So these are just some examples of the names, but each and every company, big or small, you will have to be very conscious about the going concern assumption. Your documentation has to be very robust in this particular gating question, right? We will talk about other aspects as well, but this is one of the most important considerations, okay? So any question on this, guys? I would like you to, ask some questions on this front, because it's a very important aspect. So any question? Are you clear on this concept? Yeah, that's great. Okay, so I will move forward. I think you can see my screen, right? Going concern assumption is displayed right now. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Raghav. Now we will move forward, okay, and we will cover item by item, okay, and see all these items will have an impact on your accounting for this year. First one being inventory. Now, inventory, what do you do as per your accounting policy? Cost or NRV, whichever is lower, right? In this year, it will become more important that you measure it on cost or NRV, whichever is lower, right? But how do you bring NRV into the picture is will become questionable, right? The second important question which will come while doing inventory valuation is fixed overhead allocation, right? What is the methodology for fixed overhead allocation? Can anyone tell me? It's on normal capacity or on actual capacity? Normal capacity, right? Now, nothing has become normal now. Nothing is normal. The companies have been shut down, right? The production is not going to take place, correct? If you talk about March, majority of last year was okay, but now when you do quarters, this will become more and more important, because there were only 5 6 days or 6 7 days of idle time for absorption of overhead, right? So this becomes a challenge. Unallocated overheads which are excessive has to be charged off to P&L, right? That is also an important consideration. The second important consideration or challenge is physical valuation of inventory. Now, in your CARO, you will have to mention whether inventories have been valued at an appropriate time, etc. How do you put this clause? Because on 31st, it was complete lockdown. No one was allowed to move here and there. How would you solve this problem? Right? It becomes very, very difficult to, uh, have this particular thing, right? So exactly, Mr. Khan, you are saying alternative procedures. So what are those alternative procedures which you can do is, let's say some companies follow monthly inventory valuation process. So if they have done an inventory of inventory valuation on February 28th, right, you will do a roll forward procedures. What is the production which has happened and what is the sales which has happened? Or you can do a reverse calculation, right? Roll back of inventory, as Saket is saying and Mr. Khan is also saying, right? So you will have to go back and do a minus, but even till now you are not allowed to do movement. Who will do the inventory valuation and inventory count? So my suggestion to this point is that use your networks, right? Because interstate movement may not be allowed for some more time, but the more time you wait, the lesser effective would be your alternative procedures. So let's say a lockdown is relaxed and you have locations across India of your company. You can connect to other CA firms and request them to do a physical verification on your behalf, right? Using the work of other auditor or using the work of expert can be used, and follow those guidelines to do that particular thing. In that way you are able to solve this problem, right? So this is a very important challenge, and this is the way you can probably solve this problem around inventory, right? Also, the internal control processes and procedures would be very, very important. That how much reliance do you place on the internal processes of the company, right? So that also becomes important. It is both for auditor and auditee both, right? These things, because even companies have to conduct the physical verification, right? So that's the important thing. Now there is a question from Piyush Gupta saying, will electricity expense of 8 days will be normal or abnormal or any fixed expense? So look, what happens, what I have seen in my experience is that electricity charges is two ways. One is a fixed charge, which you will have to anyways pay as a committed number. The second, you club it as a variable expenses, okay, which is directly linked to the production of the inventory. So if the electricity charges is of the fixed nature, right, irrespective of your factory is running and you have categorized it as a fixed expenses, you will charge it off the 8 days to the inventory. But if it is variable, then it is totally dependent on the number of units you are producing, right? Hope I have answered your question. Okay, so as we move forward, impairment is another important aspect. And look, one thing I wanted to highlight is, even you are doing audit or accounting under if you are accounting your this thing under Ind AS or IFRS, under both these concepts which I am explaining you will hold good, okay, as an auditor or auditee. Now even impairment, most of the things will be similar, okay. Whether there is an, so impairment is what we all understand, that for assets to bring it down to the to their realizable value, if it is not expected to fetch the required number of required cash flow which is expected, right? So again, you would have to do a very extensive impairment testing. Now again here, don't assume, one of my advice, or one of my suggestion, I would say, not advice, I would say suggestion, is that these are unprecedented times, right? Don't believe yourself too much that you can do all. This year audit or this year book closure would not be same as any year in past or any year in future, right? It is very, very different. So here I would suggest that take help of experts again in this area. What is the discount rates to be taken, right? What is the cash flow projection? Now if you are not well versed with the industry expert, you should take help of industry experts to give you some kind of indication, and definitely that indication would be backed by some facts or figures. We all understand future, we don't know what will happen tomorrow, right? But all these facts and figures would be would have some basis at least which are better than us, right? Don't look at the cost of audit, right? Because it is, I will speak about that as well. But all these things you are not, or you may not be well versed with the discount rates which you use in impairment testing, right? The cash flow projections you use, the terminal cash flows which you consider in your cash flow projections, right? Which makes it very, very complex, and where the amounts are big, I would suggest to take help on these factors. Also keep an eye on the publications which are being released, the press releases which are happening, to corroborate your thinking, right? So which becomes very important in impairment testing, right? Now this topic which we are discussing, okay, and I will also share some of the screenshots of the publicly available information. So, and look, guys, the point is we have 1 hour. So I'm talking directly about the issues. If you are not well versed with the issues of these topic, so you may be feeling little difficulty in the understanding, but I can't give you a complete background about the issue, but we are talking about the issue of that topic. Okay, now financial instrument, completely a Ind AS topic. Okay, but it is still related to accounting standards as well. If we change the nomenclature and say provision for debtors provisioning is done in accounting standard also and in Ind AS also, right? Now Ind AS has a concept of expected credit loss model, and accounting standard has incurred loss model, means you estimate the provision, right? But here the point is, both the approaches somehow rely on the past data. But when you do provision for this time, right, of the debtors provision, you just don't go by the bucket of the debtors, right? That it is more than 6 months, so I will provide 50%, more than 1 year, I will provide 100%. And those who are in Ind AS, whatever the Ind AS model gives you, you will provide in that basis. It doesn't work that way, right? So the point here, what I'm trying to mention is that you will have to have more holistic approach, right? Let's say, for example, I will throw more lights on how do you go about tackling with debtors, right? Now you will go and scrutinize your debtors, you will do analytics on your debtors, okay, and bucket those debtors according to the industry in which they operate in, right? Basically, let's say you have dues from airline industry, you have are impacted significantly, right? Bucket those, then you will have to go more finer into it on ABC analysis, basically who are your main debtors, that what is their financial position, right? So you will have to do a completely different approach on debtors provisioning in this time than what you have done before, right? So that becomes very, very important, and I'll show you some lines which has been written by TCS. Okay, this is the press release or the quarterly update for the year end, which has been released by TCS for 31st March. They have written all these things. You know, they are saying that considering the likelihood of increased credit risk and consequential default, considering emerging situations due to COVID, right? They have said that they have evaluated. You see the line which is there. Can you see my cursor? I am not sure whether you can see my cursor, but the second last line which is highlighted, saying specifically customers in retail, travel, transport, hospitality, manufacturing, energy vertical, which could have an immediate impact, and the rest which could have an impact with a lag. So you see, the best part of this professionally for us is the amount of reading we will be doing to complete our work, right? So you see TCS company who has released its results for 31st March has written these words, and they have undergone this type of analysis when they have done the data's provisioning. So irrespective of Ind AS or Indian GAAP, the old Indian GAAP, wherever you are doing, it has to be done in this fashion. This is one of the things, but definitely cannot be ignored, right? Clear, guys? Any question on debtors provisioning? Piyush, I will come back to you on your this question, right? So no, Saket, it will not be change in accounting policy. So all of these guys, when they are writing, no, in their notes, they have given significant reference to COVID-19, right? And all these things, when you say, so no accounting standard gives you that you do provision basis the aging, right? Or ECL model. They give you a guidelines that your data should be at realizable value, right? And should not be significant write down should happen, right? So it is not change in estimates. It is not change in estimates. It is estimate itself. I don't know the name of the person, but it's the change of estimate itself. It is an estimate itself, because the situation have changed. So the basis, your basis of making the estimate is now after considering COVID situation. Getting my point? Am I making sense? Very important questions. Whether it is a, yeah, Piyush, you have some questions. Let me get back to you. Means which industry, how much impacted credit loss? No, so Piyush, the point here is that the industries which are there, so I cannot say blanketly pharma is totally unimpacted. Some of the pharma players are impacted also because of COVID, right? Automobile is completely, it is impacted, right? So you will have to see the industry first. The second is of the company and specifically what they do, right? Pharma is a very big word, or automobiles is a very big word, right? Let's say automobile sector may tractors are there. Now going forward, the government may give more, initiatives or incentives to farmers, right? And ultimately, they end up procuring more tractors or the tractors like things, right? And if your company is into that, then you are still not impacted, correct? So, lot of permutation combination is there, and this is a testing time for us as a professional, that we grow up and just not um, limit ourselves to our knowledge of accounting standards or our knowledge of audit. We should not be, it is a time to think more. What are the risks that company can have, right? What are the risks that customer can have? What is the risk that the business model can have of the company, right? All these things. Yes, Piyush, it is totally a question of judgment, but it has to be backed by proper documentation, right? So in this case, when we are talking about daters, your daters confirmation, balance confirmation will become that more important, right? The financial health of your data and your understanding about the business of your data will become more important. The geography in which it is operating will become more important, right? So a data in a similar industry, having a shop in Italy and having a shop in US and having a shop in Africa will not have the same risk, right? So that is where I'm trying to say that this time audit would be unprecedented. The amount of detail, the amount of questioning, the amount of facts gathering which you will have to do to complete this year's audit would be unparalleled. The learning would also be unparalleled. If you look at the silver lining, I'm not saying it is good, but you will always have to look at the silver lining, because the amount of, by compulsion, we will have to read so much to complete an audit. So that's the point I'm trying to bring here, right? I hope I can move to the next point. Fair value measurement, again, a very important concept, right? Again, this is totally a Ind AS concept. So you have valuation of every financial asset. You value under three levels. Level one, where the things are available in the market, like stock market price, quoted market. Level two is unquoted market, and level three is their unabsorbable inputs, right? So a lot of things will move from, maybe have potential to move from L1 to L2, because some of the companies have said that L1 measurement is still based on the market, but market itself is so volatile that it is not so reliable as a fair market pricing, right? So these kind of challenges will come, right? If you have measured your fixed asset at fair value, right, fixed asset at fair value, then also from there you will bring the fair value of an asset in your books, right? The market is so volatile that if you measure a real estate, you are not in a position to measure it fairly, because it is so much impacted by these short term events, right? I would say short term, and I hope this becomes true, but it is impacted by this significant event so much that you don't have the data, the information to measure it, right? Again, taking help of some expert would help. How much, I'm not sure, but still you would be better protected by that, right? Similarly with hedge, I will not go too much into hedge accounting, because I'm not sure if everyone is well aware of the hedging principles. Okay, so on financial instruments, any question? I would just pause for a second and then move forward. Yeah, Mr. Khan, I would say this fair value measurement happens for a financial asset measured at fair value. So it is not basis current or non-current. It is the categorization basis fair value measurement, those assets which company has selected for measuring at fair value. It can be non-current or current, both, to answer you precisely. Okay, guys, so I understand no further question, right? So let me move forward. And I have lot of these kind of samples, okay? I will share the deck with all of you who have attended today's session, right? So again, Liz, if you remember, we have done one session on legal implications. Anyone has attended that legal implication session which we have done in our 21 days learning program? Anyone has attended that session? No. Okay, so most of you have not attended. So why we were doing these programs, okay, is that everything is linked. Okay, you cannot say now, because when I used to do audit, no, I used to say this is a legal matter, this is a valuation matter, but now you will have to take a holistic approach. Okay, so just to touch upon, there is a clause called force majeure. I may be pronouncing it not correctly, but that is a clause which have act of God. Remember the movie OMG, Paresh Rawal's movie? So act of God, right? So here also it absolves you, these contracts absolves you from your liability if something is done and falls in the definition of force majeure. Okay, so connecting it with the lease, I'm not sure how many of you are well aware of the new lease standard, which is Ind AS 116, and this is specifically for that, where even your future lease payments come on your balance sheet and becomes ROU asset, right? So how do you impair the ROU asset, correct? And whether, if you are a lessor, whether your lessee is availing the option of force majeure and saying that I will not pay you the lease rentals, so should you accrue in your books, right? If I am a lessee, then should I change my valuation of my ROU asset? These are the important points which, if you are doing a lease assessment under Ind AS, you will have to consider that fact. So someone is writing, we have few cases, Singapore giving VAT concession and lesser vivid 19 rent reduction. What exact treatment? We will come to that. We will come to that. Okay. I will talk about that also. Just hold on this question. Right now, revenue again under Indian GAAP and under IFRS. Few of the things which you will have to keep in mind is whether your contract which you have entered into, whether it is service or goods, is still enforceable. Someone has done a contract in which monthly you have to supply X quantity, right? Whether he will still honor that contract or not, right? Whether you have a situation of bill and hold, right? You have billed someone about for his goods and he has asked you to hold. In normal situation, both under Ind AS and IFRS, you would have recorded the revenue. But in this situation, would you reconsider your revenue recognition, right? Then impairment of contract assets, basically when you create a contract asset, when you have delivered goods or services more than the amount you have collected or billed, I would say billed, then you create a contract asset. Now whether this contract asset itself is realizable or not, you don't know, so you will have to perform a impairment test on this contract asset, right? Collectibility, whether when you are billing now or even if you are selling now after 1st of April also, whether you will be able to collect that money from the data is also a question, right? What is the if you have entered into a contract and someone else does not perform that contract, or you are in a position of not performing that contract, then what are the implications? Because all these situations and many more, right, has an implication of coming out of the revenue standard itself and dealt with it separately, right? So Naman, I would try to cover it a little bit. I'm not a bank or a NBFC expert, but I would like to cover this point also separately. Okay, as we move on in the session, you will see that, right? Now you see few of the aspects, right? Penalties will play a significant role, right? Delay, if you have delay in fulfillment of obligation, whether can you claim for penalty, right? Whether a contract becomes a onerous contract, right? Onerous contract is what? The cost of fulfillment of the contract is more than the revenue you are going to earn from it, right? So your some of your contracts may become onerous, so you will have to create a provision for that. You will have to create provision for penalties if you are supposed to pay because of some defaults in the contract which are happening, because here legal will also come into picture. You will say there was no force majeure clause, but there is some condition in our law where it is called as frustration of the contract. Okay, in that still the act of God, other person can claim and or even you can claim, and that contract validity becomes questionable, right? So the point which I am driving for all these discussions, they are all very lengthy. They are all very lengthy discussions and can take a huge amount of time. But the point I am trying to say here is that you will have to question everything, whether the contract itself is valid, whether the other person will actually honor the contract or not, right? Whether you would receive the goods or service which has been contracted in that contract or not, right? How the government will act on these things. So lot of focus has to be done. So I would say this quarter onwards or even March audit would be more of testing of your understanding of the entire economy,
understanding of the business of the client, understanding the other factors which revolve around these things, so that you can audit the assumptions also, or audit the estimates also. Okay, so that's the point which I wanted to bring. Other points, like you have deferred tax asset in your books, whether now you would have enough profits coming up in the subsequent years, because you create deferred tax asset in your books only in the expectation that you can utilize that deferred tax asset against the liability which is getting generated in the next couple of years or 5 years or so. But now you will have to basis your forecast, you will have to estimate whether deferred tax asset will get reversed in the subsequent years or not. Ability, right? Here Ind AS and IFRS has a difference. Accounting standard says virtual certainty, and Ind AS says reasonable certainty of reversal, right? So the test is different under Indian GAAP and IFRS. Still, property, plant and equipment, your depreciation will continue doing because it's lockdown and your machine is not working. If we go back to our basic studies, it says that depreciation is because of wear and tear and all that stuff. And even if it is not used, then also it will be depreciated because there is technological obsolescence and all that stuff. So you will find it funny to read. It will be testing our basic knowledge, you know. Then there may be some estimate change in terms of useful life of your fixed assets, right? Borrowing cost. Now again, there is a moratorium period of 3 months or 2 months which RBI has given, and if some companies are availing, then your borrowing cost assumptions may change. Mostly under Ind AS your rate may change, right? And you know, your under Indian GAAP your accruals may change. And even on the borrowing cost with respect to fixed asset, there may be suspension of capitalization of borrowing cost, because your activity of capitalization is significantly impacted or halted, right? So it will all go under P&L, right? So that's the point which is there. What are the other post balance sheet events? Now very, very important. Okay, post balance sheet event, let me just, I have one this thing. So post balance sheet events becomes very, very important, right? You are auditing April March 20 financials in, let's say, April, and you will have to sign it off. So you will take all the conditions which exist till April, right? And then in case of if you are doing till September, you will have more information as to how the company is doing. So this is a very good in this particular scenario, it's a good um, a good way to, you know, have certain audit evidences which is given only by time, right? So in case you are lucky enough and get time till September to sign off, you will have 6 more months to see where the things are going, and you will have more information to corroborate the assumptions which has been taken on 31st March, right? So that's the thing. Some of the considerations which you should consider in your presentation of financial instruments, right? Uncertainty around estimates and judgments, breach of loan covenants, right? And then there has to be a lot of disclosure, guys. We as a professionals are responsible to give lot of disclosures around the financial statements and each item, and I will show you some examples also, right? uh, Moving forward, look, there is again a survey which has been done, an interesting survey. Again, the ACCA report which has come to me today has done it. Okay, so the survey says, what are the impact faced by auditors. Okay, impact, it is not negative or positive, it's the impact. So they are facing challenge to complete the work, inability to meet the reporting deadlines, having enough audit evidences, right? But at the same time, it is giving them opportunities to help the client on tax and compliance and advisory matters, also helping clients in their digital transformation journey, because everyone is looking at cost cutting, right? So these are few top items which are there for auditors, which has been highlighted by this report. I thought it's interesting to share with you. Now, again, when you write your audit report, you would have to write CAM, right? Which is significant audit matters, which auditor is supposed to put, right? You see the example of Infosys. They have given regarding daters as a key audit matter, right? This was the key audit matter. So use this section of your audit report very wisely to put forward the points which are important for a person to know from you, right? So use this very, very effectively. I will share it. I'm not going to read this because it is available in the public domain, right? You would again take a call whether it is a emphasis of matter or this a particular aspect requires a qualification, right? So that you will have to consider while drafting your audit report, right? That how critical that matter is, whether it requires a emphasis or it requires a qualification in the report, right? Key audit matters I have talked about. This is just a small table which gives you what is the subsequent event timelines, right? Let's say your year end was December 19, and these are the events which has happened, and 31st March 20 is when you are authorizing your financials to issue. All the events which has happened in this period, between this period, is your subsequent event, and you can consider this for your audit purposes, right? And this hold good for all those who are auditees also. You know, you would have to be ready for auditor's question, right? So audit knowledge should be there for auditee as well to handle audit effectively. So that's where, you know, I'm talking about. So evaluating the work of expert or management expert, right? This will become important because you will be dealing with lots of experts, and there is a essay which has been released for us as an auditors, so that we will have to, you know, be very convergent. But normally what happens, I have seen that normally you don't need expert except for actuary. Who give you the actuarial valuation. Normally experts in a normal situation are not very well used, but now it is very important. You know, you will have to understand the scope. If it is appointed by the management, understand the scope, understand the independence, understand his own you know, qualification and competency, and understand what work he has done. It becomes very important, and it becomes an audit evidence for you. Certain deadline relaxations, all listed companies, from 15th May, it has become 30th June for debt listed and for equity listed companies, right? For board and audit committees, physical presence is not mandatory. Board meeting gap has increased from 120 days to 180 days, because one board meeting to another board meeting, typically 3 months were allowed in the law, but now it can be increased to 180 days, right? Then independent directors can share their views through telephone or through mails, etc. They can have a discussion and it will be considered valid. CSR, the Prime Minister PM Care now qualifies for CSR contribution, but the Chief Minister Relief Fund or the state relief fund is not qualified. However, state disaster management fund is still qualified as a qualified expenses under CSR, that 2% thing, right? Okay, I'll show you some abstracts of some listed companies, which has showed, I've highlighted few points and I will read out the relevant ones, which are important. Look, this is Infosys, which says financial statement has used internal and external sources of information, including credit report and related information, economic forecast and consensus estimates from the market, right? So they are also writing from where they have used, right? So that's the whole thing. Credit risk, they have written about it, and look at, they are using the COVID-19 very, very openly, right? So here also you see, the group has concluded that the impact of COVID-19 is not material on these estimates, right? So Infosys has said that they estimate their impact is not material, but they also write, due to nature of pandemic, the group will continue to monitor the development to identify significant uncertainties in the future period, right? That's how it is. Then again, TCS writes, so impact on COVID-19, TCS says, does not forecast any large scale contraction in demand, which could result in significant downsizing on employee. They have said, okay, boss, no impact on us, right? Other risk they have also identified. You see, this is again the same line, similar line if you see in the bottom. Retail, travel, transport, hospitality, manufacturing, energy vertical, etc. Right? We looked at it in the Infosys Financial as well. So they are using it. Again, on goodwill impairment testing, they have given a paragraph that CGU testing, how they have done and what is the result of that. So why I am saying that is that notes are very, very important, right? To put appropriately in the financial statement. You see, in the last, force majeure word has been used by TCS. It has not been used by Infosys, but has been used by TCS, saying SLA in light of current crisis, invoking of force majeure clause, etc., to ensure that revenue recognition is, in such cases, reflect realizable value, right? So force majeure, even your customers can avail. Similar is Wipro, but again, HDFC Bank, you see, they have highlighted that past dues and moratorium period, which has been, done by or declared by RBI, they have given a reference to that how they have dealt with it, that they are not considering this as an NPA if someone does not pay in that period. Okay, and even they will not consider that as NPA. So this is the point they have highlighted. Naman, would that help? What would be impact over NBFC? So again, to answer now, Naman, I have read your question that this kind of disclosure will go. And again, for a banking or a NBFC kind of a company, they have to do a much thorough evaluation of their NPAs. Now with the COVID situation, let's say they have given loans to these industries which are high risk, they would have to again look at it and reevaluate their NPA positions, right? So Bharti Infotech is saying that they have absolutely no impact. They are least impacted due to COVID. There is a surge in demand, right? For people like Bharti and all that stuff. So they are saying that, right? Moving next, ACC. ACC says pandemic is rapidly spreading through the world, ACC's plants and offices are under nationwide lockdown since March 24. As a result of the lockdown, volumes have reduced. So because this is only for March, but then ACC has given a more detailed this thing. Even Ambuja Cement is saying the same thing, right? Adani Power is saying that it runs into a risk, basically saying that further the RBI has granted relief to borrowers, and they run into a risk of DESCOMs payment not being received, because Adani Power is purchased by DESCOMs, and if they don't pay, so what they are saying is that DESCOMs will have to comply. The Power Ministry has also clarified that DESCOMs will have to comply with the obligation to pay to the fixed capacity charges of PPA. So again, it's a circular motion, means everyone is impacted by everyone. So they are also highlighting this fact, correct? So I wanted to bring certain aspects of the industry so that we can see on a real-time basis that what other industries are doing in this sector, you know, or dealing with this COVID situation from accounting, reporting, auditing point of view, right? So any questions, guys? Any question which has been unanswered till now? There was one, right? That question I will come to you, come back to you, but I'm just waiting for any questions to come by, and then I will have just the last slide to cover. No question, guys? Okay, so the Singapore thing which you have asked, no, it has to be seen in the light whether the government is supporting that rental waiver or it is being given by the lessor. If it is government supported, it may be accounted as a government grant. If it is given by lessor, then it is not treated as government grant, and you will not you will not probably record those kind of rentals in your books as an expense if you are a lessee, right? So it will depend that who is giving that grants, basically who is giving that exemption. If government is funding that, then it may get a shade of a government grant. Yeah, have I cleared your doubt? I don't have your name, I'm sorry, but yeah. Yeah, Sandesh. Yeah. Piyush, as I said, frankly speaking, I'm not a FI expert on banking and, NBFC sector. So I have only limited knowledge in terms of that. So I would, not talk too much about banking or NBFC, but any other sector, I think I would like to give an appropriate answer. Yeah. Thanks, Piyush, for your prompt. Jay says, yes. So look, Jay, I would not say force majeure is an idea. Okay. Now it has come, and yes, some people are using it as an idea also, right? But for some people, it was very, very genuine, right? Now understand this point. Okay, when I'm saying I don't know the financial position of these guys, but those people who have taken big malls on rentals, right? PVR is a big company, but assume potentially a zero revenue from last 40-45 days, right? No one has that much of cash in their bank accounts, except if you are Apple, right? No one has that much of cash. You just manage your working capital cycle and rely that there will be a income which will come in. So those people are really struggling for that aspect, right? And I agree, some of them are using it for their benefit as well. Yeah. So any more questions, comments, guys? I would be happy to address. By that time, I will move to Our next slide, few suggestion. Yeah, Jay, you are absolutely right that when we also do audit, we have, or when we look at a contract from a finance angle, you know, we look at it as a commercial. What is the commercial? What are the timelines in which we have to deliver and all that stuff? We have never looked at it from these legal terminology. We say, Are ye to, all these are legal clauses, okay? They are standard. We used to talk like this, but it doesn't work that way. Now you are seeing a real play of those, right? So few suggestions, not taken from anywhere, but coming from my own kind of experience and the work which I have done, that I would, if I am going as an auditee or auditor, I would understand the business much better, understand the key trends of economy, right, where the economy is heading, involve experts and take their views, right, utilize the network and get your work done as much as possible, keep an eye on the global trends, basically results, research reports, etc., which are very very helpful, and monitor the briefing of, you know, of the organizations like government, RBI, Federal Reserves, WHO, or any other organization. Keep an eye what they are saying. If you are into a particular industry, you should look at the industry pain points issued by them. And there are a lot of literature, good literature, which is getting published by various people, right? And if you are auditor or auditee, I would say plan your audits well, um, and expect your efforts to be high and increased in this activity. At the same time, you will be grappling with making things normal for your own organization. So there will be challenging time ahead. We all will have cost pressures, etc. But you know, the approach needs to change. If I have to just summarize this whole discussion, is that approach needs to change significantly. We will have to lift ourselves up from just being a finance professional to a overall a person who actually understands business and takes proper professional judgment calls, right? So that's it from my side, guys. Any questions, please let me know, and any comments on this session. If there is no question, please share your comments for today's session, and then we will end and conclude this session. Thanks a lot, everyone. Thank you, guys, those who are attended the sessions and giving the last comments. Thanks, great. So have a nice day, guys, and enjoy the remaining portion of your day. Thank you.